Okay, so a very good evening to all of you. Okay, great. So welcome, to this edition of the webinar on the Java and service-oriented architectures for beginners. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Prithviraj Bose. Uh, I work in a city called Bangalore in India. And today I'm going to talk about, Java and the service-oriented architecture course, which is offered by edureka. And I'm going to briefly tell you, about the course structure, what Java is, and how you benefit from the course. And also, I'm going to, end with a small demo so that you can see, Java and service-oriented architectures in action. Well, just before I start, let me tell you briefly about myself. I have 18 years of software development experience, and I have been working on Java for over 15 years. Well, I've worked on many languages, not only Java, C, C++, Python, and also on enterprise applications. And, my key achievement has been development of stock applications for the Tokyo Stock Exchange, as well as, developing broadcast systems in India as well as all over the world. So if you look at Tata Sky, if you look at Airtel, if you look at Canal Digital in Europe, or if you look at DirecTV in the United States, well, all the systems which run inside it, I was one of the chief implementers. And let me tell you, they all run on Java. Okay? They are all Java-based systems, which runs in a device called set-top box. Okay, so that's about me, and I'll couple of housekeeping questions, announcements. As I go along, if you have any questions, please, just pop in your questions and I'll try to answer them as I go along. Okay? So, okay, let's get started. So here's the agenda today. What is Java? Reason for its popularity. And I'm going to briefly explain to you how Java works, how is it different from other languages, and how edureka's this particular course, Java JEE and SOA, service-oriented architecture course helps. Okay, so let's see what Java is. Right now, Java initially started off as a computer programming language, but these days, Java is more as a technology, and I'll tell you why. But before that, let's understand Java as a computer programming language. There are, I think, over 100 programming languages in the world: C, C++, Erlang, Scala, Pascal, then Python. A lot of languages are there, but surprisingly, Java has become very popular over the last decade. And Java is it's an object-oriented language. There are various kinds of languages. You have a procedural language like C. You have object-oriented languages like Scala, like Python. Python is also procedural. You can also do object-oriented programming with Python. Java is an object-oriented program, then language. And then C++ is also an object-oriented programming language. Eiffel is also an object-oriented programming language. An object-oriented programming language, it's all about, where programming entities are treated as objects, rather than variables. And these objects, are very useful in modeling real-world, entities. So object-oriented language, sort of, bridges the semantic gap between the real world and the computer programming world. So much easier to model using object-oriented programs. And it also helps you to achieve, platform independence. We'll see what platform independence means. That's one of the key selling point of Java. And initially, Java was developed, in 1994 in the Sun Microsystem labs by a gentleman named James Gosling. So James Gosling, started off with this Java thing, and obviously he had a large team, working with him. But he's considered as one of the key founders of the programming language. And let me tell you, Java was initially called Oak. Okay, it was initially called Oak, but over the years, they changed the name from Oak to Java. Okay, so let's move on. And here are the versions, of various Java. As you can see, Java version 1, came around January 1996, and it has come a long way over the last 10 years. And right now, the present language, which we have is Java 8. Okay, which has a lot of new features like functional programming, and a lot of new facilities are there in this language. And so this is a kind of new avatar of the Java. And if you want to check your Java version, uh, you can actually, if you have Java installed, so you can go to the command prompt, and assuming that Java is in your path variable, system path variable, you can just type Java minus version, and it will show you the version. It is currently in my system, Java is 1.7. Okay, 1.7 is installed, and there are a host of other informations, that like the runtime version, the hotspot, version, all these things. Okay. Right. So here we have a question. What is the difference between Scala and Java? Okay, Ajit, I'll try to answer this very briefly, but I'm not going to get into the details because obviously, I don't think others would be really interested. Well, Scala is a JVM based language. Scala has its own syntax. Scala has its own semantics. But end of the day, when you compile a Scala, basically bytecode is generated, and that runs on a JVM. So it's a virtual machine based language, that's Scala. Okay, but there is no similarity between Java and Scala. Okay, Scala is completely a different programming language. It is a functional programming language. Okay, which is very different from the object-oriented languages we have, and it's also object-oriented, but you can do a lot of functional programming with it. Okay, have I answered your question, Ajit, briefly? Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so let's see where Java is used. Java is everywhere. I mean, if you look around you, Java is everywhere. If you have a set-top box at home, if you are in India and if you have a set-top box at home, whether it is running on cable or satellite, in all probability, 95% chances are there it's running Java. If you have a Tata Sky system, if you have an Airtel system, or if you have Hathaway system, they are all written in Java. And let me tell you, I was one of the key developers of that system, which is running. If you have a mobile phone, if you they are all Android based operating systems, and most of the apps are also written using Android APIs, which is again Java. And if you're into data science and big data, that also uses a lot of Java. Like you have the Hadoop framework from Apache, the Solar framework from Apache, the Hive framework from Apache. They are all written in 100% Java. If you are using a web server like Apache Tomcat, that is 100% written in Java. If you are using an application server like Wildfly from JBoss or Glassfish from Oracle, that is also using Java. It is completely written in Java. If you are using database connectors for MySQL or Oracle, using a JDBC connector, then that is also written purely in Java. So as you can see, Java, it's kind of everywhere. It has kind of got into it had a pretty high penetration compared to other languages. And I'll tell you also what is the reason for its penetration. Okay, uh, and also a lot of frameworks, like Apache, most of the Apache projects like Hadoop, Lucene, Solar, then Elasticsearch, they are all written in Java. Okay. Now, let's see, what is the reason for Java's popularity. Okay. The first reason, okay, let me tell you one thing, before I get on to, discussing Java's popularity. Let me tell you that, please don't think that Java is a very superior language. Okay. Something very popular does not necessarily mean that something is superior. Most of the times, something is popular because of its ease of use. Okay, because it's probably easy to use. It has a fantastic library support, and probably it has a fantastic community support. So that makes it popular. Okay. I personally worked on a lot of languages where I found it was much better than Java. But one of the reasons maybe it did not kind of had a high penetration because it was difficult to learn. The learning curve was pretty steep. You had a pretty steep learning curve, or maybe the community support was not there. Maybe it did not have a very good library. So that's one of the reasons maybe the language was not very popular. But Java, on the other hand, solved these problems, and that's why it had a very high penetration. So it has an excellent community support. Like if you go to Stack Overflow or Java Ranch, there are fantastic forums on Java. You can post your questions, and somebody definitely will answer the question. So that's a nice way to crowdsourcing, what they call. That's a good way to crowdsource your problems on Java, on Stack Overflow or Java Ranch. Okay. Then also most of the open source projects are also Java based, and this leads to a virtuous cycle of higher adoption rate. Because say, for example, if you are using a library which is written in Java, so obviously, in all probability, you will write the program also in Java rather than writing it in a different language and then again writing a bridge between that language and Java. So you'll probably write it in Java as well, your program in Java as well. And that virtuous cycle, led to a very higher adoption rate. Okay. And another thing which I really like about Java, why I can say this very confidently, because there are, I know a lot of languages. So, I'm in a position to make that, make that judgment. So Java has a fantastic, library support. If you look at the Java library, which is bundled along with the Java, they call it JDK, Java Development Toolkit. So that has a fantastic library support. So a lot of things, are already there. You can use that, or you can extend that, and that kind of eases your development. So you can do your development pretty fast. So these are the main reasons why Java is so popular. So so far, do you have any questions for me? Like, if you have any burning questions, you can just ask me, and I'll be glad to answer it. Okay, here we have a question. It is saying that an example of here Rahul is asking any example of open source software based on Java. Yeah, exactly. I just said a short while back, if you look at these frameworks, they are all written in Java. Like if you look at Apache Hadoop or Apache Solr, which is a search framework, that's completely written in Java. Or if you use other search libraries like Lucene, or if you use Elasticsearch, they're 100% written in Java. If you look at Apache Hive, which is a query language for big data, that's also written in Java. If you look at the web server, like Apache Tomcat, that's also written in Java. So here are the examples. You can go through it offline and you can see that they are 100% Java implementations. So have I answered your question, Rahul? Okay, great. So let's move on. Let's first see what platform dependence is. Okay, if you have any experience in C++ programming or any other platform dependent language, you will see that you when you write a C++ code, you need a compiler to compile that particular code, and then finally you need a linker to create the executable. Okay. Now, what happens is, for C++ based languages, now what happens is, the compiler and the linker is always, dependent for a particular platform. Okay, it's always for a particular platform. So there is a compiler and a linker for Windows. There's a compiler and linker for Linux-based system. There's a compiler and linker for Macintosh-based systems. So what happens is, if you have a C++ code and you use a Windows compiler and create an executable, now that executable will not run on Linux, will not run on Macintosh. If you want to run that particular program on Macintosh, then you have to use a Macintosh compiler. You have to again take the source code, you have to use the Macintosh C++ compiler and linker, create the Mac executable and run it on the Mac. Okay? So what happens is, this particular program which you've written in C++ does not, it's not cross-platform. So, it becomes platform dependent. Every time, you want to deploy it on a new platform, you have to compile and do a lot of a host of other things. Okay. So that is what we call, write once, and, you have to compile anywhere. And anyways, you have to compile it. So this is platform dependent. Okay. Now, the selling point of Java is that, Java came up with the paradigm of platform independence. Okay. Okay, before I get into this, I have a question from Rahul. Okay, Rahul, go ahead with your question, please. Well, Rahul is asking that most, browsers are built in Java. I don't think so, because a browser may not be, 100% Java. Because if you look at, say, for example, Chrome, or if you look at, say, Mozilla, or Firefox, you have a particular installation for Windows, you have a particular installation for Linux. So, there are a bit of operating system dependent code for a browser. But having said that, Java programs can run inside the browser. But having said that, the browser, it's not necessarily 100% Java, because the browser interacts a lot with the operating system. And so I don't think 100% Java implementation would make sense there. Okay, if you know any browser which is written 100% in Java, please let me know, because as far as I know, there aren't any. Okay, let's move on. Now, platform independence. Let me explain to you how platform independence works. Okay, don't worry about all this code which is written here, but assume that there is a Java program. Okay, and this particular Java program, what happens is, just follow my words. What happens is, when you compile a Java program, it generates something called a bytecode. Okay, and these bytecode, uh, this it's a particular binary file, which is platform independent. It has a bunch of instructions, which is platform independent. Okay, it is not related to Linux or Windows or Macintosh. They are just flat, instructions, binary instructions. Now what happens is, there is a Java virtual machine for each platform. There's a Java virtual machine for Linux-based system, a Java virtual machine, a JVM for Windows, and a JVM for Macintosh. Okay. Now what happens is, you can take this bytecode and you can run it on any of these JVMs, and it will just run. Okay. So you see how Java then achieves this platform independence. It has introduced an intermediate layer which is called the bytecode layer. So this bytecode basically is platform independent, and you can take it on any platform and run it on the JVM for that particular platform, and then your Java program just runs. Okay, so that's how it works, and that's what this diagram here on the left side explains. That you have a compiler, through which you generate the bytecode, and then you just run it on the JVM for Windows 32 or 64 OS, or Unix, Linux, or Mac OSs, and it just runs. It executes all the instructions which is there in the bytecode. So that's how platform independence is achieved for Java. Okay. So is this part clear? That how the JVM, how Java is platform independent, and how it is different in terms of manifestation from C, C++. Is it clear to all? Or if you have any doubts, you can just ask me, as we go along. Okay. So now let's let's move on. Okay. Let's move on. Now what we see here is, you know, let's see, what this edureka course, we have an edureka course of Java, JEE and SOA. Sorry, there is no more J2E. Okay, previously it was called J2E, but for the last 1 year it is called JEE. Okay, this 2 is it's removed. It's called Java Enterprise Edition. So there's a course from edureka on the Java, JEE and SOA. SOA means Service Oriented Architecture course. And let me tell you, what this particular course offers. Basically, this course, introduces you to Java as a programming language and as a technology. Okay. As a programming language, you have Java here. So you will learn the fundamentals of Java, of Java programming language, like, how to write loops, what are the variables, how to declare variables, sorry, what are the various data types you have, how you can write classes, how you can manipulate the visibility of the classes, how you can, how programs can interact with each other, how entities can interact with each other, this programming constructs, how you can create threads in Java. So all these things, is taught in the Java programming part. And then it introduces you to Java as a technology. And that's where we see Java Enterprise Edition. And here, we have this full stack, and it gives you an introduction to the full stack, where you have, various types in the client tier. You have things like Ajax, that's asynchronous, asynchronous Java, XML APIs. Then you're introduced to servlets. You're introduced to JSPs. You're introduced to business tier logic. You're introduced to, databases using JDBC. And finally, what happens is, after you've digested this enterprise edition, then it takes you to something called service-oriented architecture, which is very, very useful now. If you look at how the web is evolving, it is gradually going to something called service as a software as a service. It's something called SaaS. It's called software as a service or platform as a service. So that's how most of the enterprise applications are exposed today to the outer world. And here, the service-oriented architecture plays a very important role. Now, what happens here in service-oriented architecture, let me quickly explain to you. And okay, before that, let me explain to you what this block diagram means here in the Java Enterprise Edition. Here you have a client tier, okay? This is basically the client layer where you write your thin clients. It can be applets, it can be HTML, JavaScript stuff, it can be AJAX stuff, okay, which you write in your browser. And then whatever you do here, this goes to a middle layer, okay, a tier 2, where you have servlets, and this usually, resides in the server. So from the browser, if you send a request, it goes to the server, and probably it will go to a servlet or a JSP. And from there, the control will go to the business tier where you will have the business logic, okay? And they are usually implemented using DAOs or enterprise Java beans. And these EJBs, finally will interact with the underlying database systems using, JDBC or ODBC. And also, you will have other services applications which can be used. So that's the full stack. It's a tier 3, three-tiered application. And then finally, we have something called, and then just coming to the right side, let me tell you how this particular thing works. So what you have, you have service providers, okay? In the service-oriented architecture, you have service providers, and the services can be anything. It can be, online breakfast menu ordering system. It can be like your Flipkart, or it can be like Amazon. It can be like Alibaba, or it can be like stock quotes. Like if you want to get a stock quote, or maybe you want to get the temperature in Chicago, or maybe in New Delhi. Any service it can be. Okay. So these are the service providers, which provide you the service, through a service-oriented architecture. It can be through SOAP, or it can be REST-based APIs. I'm not getting into the technical details because most of it you won't understand. So just remember that these are service providers, and what they do is they register their services to a service broker. Okay, so they register themselves to a service broker, and this is kind of like a database, which resides somewhere in the internet. And what happens is people, and then you have the set of consumers, service consumers, who are basically interested in using the service. But the World Wide Web, it's really big, very, very big, and you really don't know who's providing what. So what you can do is you can usually search, this broker services, and find out what kind of services people are providing, and whether what kind of service you are looking for. Okay, and you can find those things. And once you find those things, this basically gives you the metadata. Metadata means basically the service description, and that is called the service contract. Like if you want to use the service, how you should use the service, what are the APIs, what are the methods you should call, how you should go about, what is the protocol, is it over HTTP or is it over HTTPS, is it over FTP, SMTP, what is the protocol it is using, what methods you should call, what data you should send, and how are you getting back the data. Like usually data is sent in XML format, but these days, JSON is very popular. There's something called JSON. It's JavaScript object notation. So you have to see how the data is returned. Is it returned in JSON format, or is it returned in XML format? So those things, this is the service contract, which the service consumer can find out. Okay. And once it finds out, it gets all the metadata information about this particular service contract. Then it uses this particular contract and connects to the service provider directly. And it makes an API call with the data it is expecting in the format it is expecting. And the service provider then returns the data as as per the contract. And then the client can take the thing, and then it can do its own business logic. So that's how service-oriented architecture works in today's world. Okay. So is this part clear? Like how it is working? Do you have any questions for me? Like how each of these things are, because you have to understand very clearly that there are three distinct entities. Java is a programming language which you learn. Then you basically learn Java as in the enterprise scenario, how you're going to use it in a real enterprise scenario. and then you're going to see how Java is used in a service-oriented architecture. And here, it's not necessary you have to use Java. It can be Python. It can be, it can be any other programming language. Okay, and so that's what it is. Okay. Rahul, you want a real-time example to understand it clearly. Okay, what example do you want? In which tier? The enterprise edition or the service-oriented architecture? Where you want the example? Okay, you want an example of SOA. Okay, I'll give you one example of SOA. Okay, service-oriented architecture. Now, suppose what you do is you want to find out, for example, suppose you have just moved to say London. You've just moved into London, and you're looking for a house over there. So initially you're staying in a guest house, which the company is providing you, but probably maybe in a week's time you have to move out to your own house. Now, obviously, there, you don't know the city, so you can't just go out in the streets and start looking for a house. So what you do is, you search the net and you try to find out, who are the brokers there who are providing you with, who can provide you with a house, or maybe, a database where, people who would like to let out have registered. And once you go there and you basically find that, okay, these are the people who basically wants you to give their house. So you just look up that thing and then get in touch with the people and then, move on to the new house. Now, this is the business scenario. Okay. Now, what happens is, if you're writing an application, how will the application work? Now, the way it works is, when you are looking for a particular broker, basically you are a service consumer and probably you'll be using an application, maybe an app in your mobile phone or maybe a browser-based application, which you'll be using. And that application is going to look up, this particular service broker database and get all the service providers contracts and then get it back to you. And once you select a particular broker, and then you're going to initiate a request to get all the details about that particular house. And so in that case, what happens is, the service provider provides you with all the information. So that's how the two applications are going to work. Okay, if you look at the computer application level. Is this clear, Rahul? And I'm going to also show you another demo where I think it will be even more clear if it's still not clear. Okay, great. We have another question from Lakshya. He's asking that what service broker do. Lakshya, is it clear? Because I just explained, what service broker do. They are basically, a kind of database where it lists all the services, all the service providers. It's a list of all the service providers along with their contract. Okay, like contract means like how you should connect to the service provider. What are the APIs you should call, in what format should the data be sent, and it also tells you in what format you're going to get back the data. So that's the service broker. That's what it provides you. And then once you get all the details, then you can directly get in touch with the service provider. Okay. So I hope that's clear. Okay, we have another question. That question is from Arun Chakravarti. You are saying, can you repeat this? I mean, what do you want me to repeat, Arun? I mean, I repeated the whole thing. Is it clear, or do you still have any doubts? Yes, Arun, can you? It's okay. Great. Okay, now we have a question from Venkat, and he's asking how SO adoption different from code conversion of legacy application. Okay, now suppose you have a legacy application, which is maybe it was written some 20 years ago when most of you were not born, maybe. Now what happens is, there are two options. If you want to convert that to a service-oriented architecture, you can rewrite the application, which may be very, very expensive, because if it's a banking application or maybe if it's a user population application, they are very, very large, and it's not feasible to rewrite the application. It will take several years. So what usually we do is that we write a layer on top of these legacy applications, and these legacy and this layered whatever layer we are providing, through that we expose the service-oriented architecture. So that kind of fits into the new world scenario. And then internally the SOA layer interacts with the legacy application. So you need not rewrite it. Okay. Okay, so okay, Arun, I understand you joined from the middle, and now you're not able to follow most of the things. Don't worry about it. Let me tell you, this particular session has been recorded. Okay, so the recording will be available. I think Edureka is going to send you an email. So once you get the recording, you can just go through this. Okay, so everything will be recorded. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now, Rajput is asking a real-time example of a J2E of a Java Enterprise server. Okay, so let me tell you, if you go to say if you go to say Airtel website, okay, or if you go to for example maybe another example maybe some Google servers, they actually run Java Enterprise servers, okay, or if you go to Oracle server. They are running Java Enterprise Server. If you go to their websites, they are full Java Enterprise Edition implementations. Okay, have I answered your question, Rajput? Okay, so that's where we are, and here is a kind of here is a here's a snippet of the course. So what it provides you. So if you enroll for this course, you are going to you know this is a beginner's course, of course. So you're going to if you aspire to be a Java developer, so I think this is the course you should start with. And the things as I told you, it's going to cover both the core as well as enterprise concepts like database connectivity, threading, exception handling, collections, JSP servlets, XMLs. And you will also learn, various open source Java frameworks like Hibernate and Spring. And towards the end of the course, you get to work on a live project. So it's from the banking domain dealing with web services. So you can just dirty your hands in writing it, and you also get a certificate if you successfully complete this particular project. And this course is for 42 hours, okay, and the assignments are of total 45 hours. The project would approximately take you 20 hours, and you have lifetime access to the material, and you have 24 into 7 support. So if you bump into any issues, you can always get in touch with the call center. Okay. Now, Venkat is asking whether this course teaches design patterns. No, it doesn't teach design patterns. If you want to learn design patterns, I'm assuming you are asking Gang of Four design patterns. Then there is a self-paced course from edureka. I think it's a self-paced course, so there is no instructor. You can just download that, and you can enroll that, and you can go through it. Or even better, if you can read the Gang of Four book, which is written by Eric Gama and Balsides and Ralph Johnson and folks, you can go through that book also. But that book may be very difficult for you to understand in case you don't know C++, because most of all examples are in C++. So I think the best is, probably you enroll for this course and for the edureka self-paced design pattern course. Okay. Okay, you mean SOA school written patterns? Oh yeah. This particular course teaches you SOA school written patterns. Yes, it covers most of the patterns here. It teaches you how to use them. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Okay, because there are various types of design patterns, and you have to be very precise which design pattern you mean. Okay, there's another question from Rajput. It's saying that, I work with Selenium Java as a tester. How is the course going to help me? Well, Rajput, see, if you're working with Selenium Java, I assume that you write a lot of code, you write a lot of script, and, so probably you do a lot of white box testing, and you do a lot of functional testing, you do a lot of acceptance testing, for which you have to write a lot of code. And I strongly recommend you that you go ahead and learn this course. But if you already know Java, okay, if you say that you're working on Selenium Java, I assume that you already know Java. If that's the case, then probably this course may not be for you, because if you already know Java. There's no point in going through this if you already know it. Then there is another course from edureka. It's called Advanced Java Concepts. That course is specifically designed and by me. It has a lot of cool stuff. You can go through that course as well. The name of the course is Advanced Java. and you can go through the curriculum. I personally designed that course, and I liked it very much, and it's absolutely aligned to the industry. So if you go through it, I'm confident, within a year's time, you can be a senior tester, writing more complicated tests and playing around with a lot of other systems. Okay, Sir Rajput, so have I answered your question? Okay, great, great. So, because, my responsibility is that, I should be able to route you to the correct course, because if you already know Java, then maybe this is not the right course for you. Okay, if you want to learn Java, or if you have some vague idea about Java, and you want to be confident in it, so this is the course for you. But if you're already working in Java, if you know how to write Java classes, and you have used some of the JDK library, then probably you should try the advanced Java. Okay, that's another exciting course we have. Okay, so that's about the course. Do you have any other questions about the course? About your which course you should take, and where you fit yourself, or if you have any career question, like I'm doing this and I would like to become this, so which course should I take? Please ask me, because this is the forum where you should be asking. Don't hesitate. Don't feel shy, or think that whether my question would be silly or not. Don't worry about all that. Just shoot your questions, and I'll because given my 18 years of software development experience, I think I can be a good guide. I can at least tell you meaningful things. Okay, we have another question from Arun. He wants to know, please talk a little basic about where beginners like me who can't understand. What do you want to understand, Arun? Tell me. Like, you have to ask me a precise question, because otherwise I can keep on talking about a lot of things, and I may waste people's time. So if you have any specific questions, you can shoot it. I'll be glad to answer. Okay, okay. Okay. Basically, Arun wants to understand that the discussion I had with Rajput, Sai Rajput, he didn't follow that. Well, basically, Arun, Mr. Sai, he's working as a tester, but he's a white box tester. That means he writes code. He's not a manual tester. Okay, so he writes code to test systems, and there are various ways to test systems. Like white box testing, functional testing, acceptance testing. So, and he uses a framework called Selenium. Okay, and he uses Java to do the stuff. And he wanted to know, whether this particular course is right for him. Okay, so the thing is, I told him that this course may not be right for him, because he's already using Selenium and Java. That means he knows Java. So if he knows Java, what is the point in going through the course again? So for that, he should go through another course called Advanced Java, where a lot of advanced stuff are taught. And I'm sure Sai can manage a promotion down the year. He can do much more complicated things and move up in his career. Okay, so that's it. Okay, we have a question from Laksha. Is this course include graphic design? No, this course has no elements of UI. Okay, it doesn't teach you how to do UI programming using Java. So if you want to do UI programming in Java, you have to use AWT and Swing frameworks, which comes bundled with Java. But this course doesn't talk about it. But let me tell you, if you understand Java, if you know how to use the programming language, you can pick that up, because it's just another framework. There are lots of samples, you can just go through it, and I'm confident, one or two samples can help you, to actually find out. Okay. Okay. Now, Venkat wants to know, is it possible to display advanced Java course? Okay. You want to see the advanced Java course? Okay. Okay, I'll just look. I mean, I'm not going to waste my time, I mean, as well as others' time in going through the full advanced Java, curriculum, because that is what not the webinar is about. So, but I can just route you to through it, okay? And you can go through it offline, and I strongly recommend that, when you have you know when you have a webinar on this advanced Java, you register yourself. So this is the things I talk about I've written about annotations, internationalization, event handling, log4j, exceptions, regular expressions, generics, and a lot of high fundamental stuff on concurrency or network programming. Okay, this is not actually taught in any of the courses online, but I've given a lot of stuff on this and a lot of stuff on design patterns, on unit testing using JUnit. So you can just go through it. Okay. Okay, fine. Now let's go back to this. We have another question from Deepak. Deepak is asking that I am aware of core Java and its concepts of thread exception collections and also done Android applications development, but I don't know anything about advanced Java, JSP servlets, etc. So what should I do to align myself with the industry standard developer? Well, Deepak, if you don't know anything about this JEE, I think this is the course for you. Okay, maybe the first 4 or 5 modules, it talks about Java as a programming language, but that's all right. You can revise. You can just take that as a rehash, as a revision, and you can then go through the other concepts like servlets and whatever you are asking. Those things are covered here. Okay, on the enterprise level. So maybe you can go through it, and you can, or it's up to you. You can learn it by yourself, or you can because people like me, we all learned it by ourselves. Because when we started our career, we did not have things like edureka or websites we have today. So we all learned it by ourselves. So I mean, if you can manage it, it's all right. If you can't manage it, if you think you need some help, you can just register yourself for this particular course. Okay, great. So that's where we are, and as I said, I was in this particular line. So do you have any other career related questions? Because this webinar is, you should make the right choice. It not only it's not only about this particular course and what Java is and whether you should take this course or not, but more importantly, you should find out whether this is the right course for you or not. And if you have any career related questions on Java, I think this is the forum you should ask. Okay, so if you have any questions, queries, feedbacks, feedback, you can always send it to us. Now, demo time. Okay, I'm going to give you a demo. Okay, let's see what this demo is. Okay, now I'm going to show you a demo, which is I've written a web service. Okay, I've written that in Java. So you can write web service in anything, any language of your choice. But since this is a Java-based webinar, so I chose to write it in Java, sorry. And the technologies which I'm using here, I'm using Java version 7. I'm using a technology called SOAP. It is, okay, Simple Object Access Protocol. That's what SOAP means, okay? So I'm using a SOAP-based web service, and this SOAP-based web service is with attachments, okay? I'm not getting into the details of what with attachments or without attachments mean, because then I have to get into the technicalities of SOAP. Okay, but just remember that there's a SOAP with an attachment. Attachment means the huge data which goes in the SOAP message. It goes as an attachment. Okay, just like your emails. When you get emails with attachments of your friends, vacation photographs, or maybe you attach your resumes and send it, or you attach something with your email. So it's just like that. This web service message, which works on SOAP protocol, comes with an attachment of the data. Okay, and I'm also using Apache Tomcat. Okay, that's the web server on which this particular web service is hosted. So the Apache Tomcat web server is hosting the web service, and this whole thing is written in Java, this web service. And I'm using a client, a command line client, to connect to this web service and get some data. Okay, so let me tell you what this is. Okay, now this web service, what it does is it takes a byte stream of a list of numbers. Okay, it takes a byte stream of a list of huge numbers, over 2,000. You can send any, 20,000, 40,000 numbers. Okay, all integers it takes. And what it does is, whatever list of numbers it gets, it basically checks individually whether each number is a prime number or not. Okay, and after it is checked, what it does is it then returns to the client the numbers which was sent with the answers. Okay, it's something like this. The input is like, it's a huge list of numbers. Okay, And the output is that, against that number, it is written true or false. False means that it's not a prime number. True means it's a prime number. Okay, and so that's what this web service does. So it's a math utility. It's a math based web service. So if there are a lot of universities, a lot of math departments who kind of host this kind of services. So you can just send a list of numbers, and you can just find out whether they are prime or not. So have you understood the scenario? Have you understood what the application is doing? So here is the set of inputs, and it's a huge list of number which goes as a series of bytes to the web service. The web service goes through each number and finds out whether it's a prime or not, and finally sends back the list with the answers. Okay, so that's what it is doing. And here is a diagrammatic representation. You have the internet, and here the web service is residing. So the client, that's me, is through the World Wide Web. I'm querying on the service, and I'm just sending the data, and I'm getting back the data in this format. Okay, so that's what it is. Now let me give you a demo of this. Okay, let's see how this thing is going to work. Here the Apache Tomcat web server is running. Okay, so this is what it is running here, and this is the Apache Tomcat web service. And here I have a client. Okay, and let me tell you, this is the data I have. This is the input data I have, which is a list of numbers. Okay, it's a huge list of numbers. Okay, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, as you can see. Okay, it's a huge list of numbers, and I'm going to send this number, this particular number, whatever is there in this file, to the web service which is hosted here in the Tomcat server. Okay, and you can do it through the URL. But I'm using a command line client for this. So what I do is, this is how you should do it. I write Java minus class path, and that's where the class file is, and I give the client name, and I press enter, and then it says service executed. So what it did was, this client got in touch with the web service here. Okay, got in touch with the web service here. Okay, and after getting in touch with the web service, basically it got all the details of in which format the client is expecting. This web service is expecting the data. So all this, what I told you in the diagram, the service contract it got, and then it basically read this numbers.txt file and then sent it to the web server. And the web service took this particular series of bytes, it's analyzed it, and again sent it back. And you see how fast it is. It's happening over HTTP. Okay, it's using the HTTP protocol, which you use in browsers, and just see how fast it is. It basically executed and analyzed over 3,000 numbers, and it did it in less than a second. So just see how fast it did. It did not even take maybe a couple of milliseconds it took. And if you look at the output, this is what the output, the web service sent, and this is what it is. Against each number, it wrote true or false. False means whether it's not a prime number. True means it's a prime number. Okay. So that's what this particular demo did. It just showed you Java, how Java is used in the web service context, as well as it can be written as a client. Okay, and I'm not showing you the code here. I'm not explaining you the code because a lot of people don't know Java here, so showing the code won't be very effective. Okay, here we have a question from Satyajit. Satyajit is asking, to become an efficient software developer, which language to start with? Okay, Satyajit, let me tell you, uh, if you were, starting, say, 10, 15 years ago, if it was 10, 15 years ago, that means maybe 2000 or maybe 20 years ago, like 1995, that's the time when I started. Probably the best language to start with would have been C, C++. But now it's 2015. If you want to start a career, I think you should start with Java. Okay, I think Java is good. That's a good starting point. Okay, now there's another question. It's saying that after 15 years of experience in various domains, is it really possible not to learn Java and other languages and become a programming professional? See, Velen, I'm telling you something. Never underestimate, what you can do. Okay, but having said, you can always learn a language even when you are 50 years old. Okay, that really doesn't matter. But having said that, what you can do is maybe it will be difficult for you to get a job because people usually, especially in India, I'm assuming you are in India. People, with entry level experience in Java, they expect, freshers, people whose age is less than 28 years or something like that. So people who are as old as me, they don't expect them to work at entry level. But I'm assuming you already have a lot of experience in MIS and in ETL, application development now, which is actually rock solid. Okay. The thing is, and if you're working on MIS and ETL application development in Unix and Oracle, I strongly recommend you to learn Java and gradually, try to move towards analytics and big data because you are already, on the track. And I'm confident within 1 or 2 years you will be, and you'll be an ETL or analytics expert. Okay. And since you already have this solid experience, which very few people in this industry have, I think you should kind of use that as an investment and learn Java so that you can use the ETL and the analytics concepts in using Java. Okay, and if you already know all these things, and I'm telling you, I'm confident within 1 month you will be a master in Java because ETL and these things are not very simple. If you are already handling this, I think Java will be a cakewalk for you. And I strongly recommend you take that course and then you start writing ETL programs in Java. Okay, and then I'm confident that you will land up with very lucrative analytics and ETL related, MIS related jobs. Where you can be a senior architect, you can be maybe a consultant, things like that. Okay, so that looks very promising, Velen. Have I answered your question, Velen? Have I answered your question, Velen? Because that was a very good question you asked. And good you mentioned that you're working on MIS and ETL. Because if that's the case, then you have a fantastic trajectory. You have a lot of potential energy stored. It's just that you have to throw yourself, and automatically the projectile will take its course. Okay, we have another question from Venkat. He's saying that which version would be taught, 7 or 8, and will there be any extended help in the Oracle certification process? Well, in this particular course, we are going to teach Java 7, not Java 8. And I'm afraid, edureka doesn't provide any guidance in the Oracle certification process. Okay, so that you have to manage on your own. Okay, yeah, fine. We have another question from Velen that, uh, Velen is asking that, okay, yeah, I've answered Velen's question. Okay, thanks, Velen, for the response. I suggest you continue what you're doing, and after that, but I recommend Velen, if you already know ETL and MIS things, if you're already working in this kind of a domain, why don't you take up the advanced Java course? Because with your kind of experience, I'm assuming you know a lot of stuff. So don't underestimate yourself and just don't listen to what people are saying. 90% of the people are born to discourage people. So don't listen to them. And I recommend you take up the advanced Java course. And I think, that's, it will make sense to you because you're already, in this application development using ETL and MIS. So, okay. Okay. Mm. Well, Satyajit is asking that, does Java has, any connection to network programming? Of course it does, if you learn Java, it will definitely help you in your career in networking and development. So you can go ahead with that. Okay. Yes, Venkat is asking that, how can he gain knowledge to know the internals of Java so that he can fine tune apps? Okay, for that actually, there are, I assume that Venkat, you already know, you already know software, development. I'm assuming that, what you can do is you can search you can search the internet for application fine-tuning using Java, for Java, and you'll find fantastic links, from Oracle, and there are fantastic articles which actually, we don't have the time today, otherwise I could have shown you. There's something called a Java profiler. You can use Java profiler to find out, how it's using the memory, how it's using the heap, how the garbage collector is behaving, and you can find out, whether the program is misbehaving or not. And then you can finally, go to the application and start fine tuning. So you can use a profiler. Profiler are like medical tests. It tells you whether the problem is there or not. And once there is a problem, you go back to the application and start solving it. So you can just give a search, on application fine tuning for Java. And don't forget the memory profiler tool, which comes with the Java installation. If you go to the JDK bin folder, you'll find the profiler over there. Okay. And you can just go through the Oracle documentation which comes, and it's pretty simple to use. I don't have the time, otherwise I could have shown it to you. But I think others would not be interested on that. Okay, we have another question from Arun. You're asking us, how will this course be helpful to me, who is a computer science engineer? I'm a first-year student. Well, Arun, if you are a first-year student and if you are already a computer science student, I recommend that I think this course probably will be Java will be taught in your course. So because in most of the computer science curriculum, Java or C, C++, these things are taught. So if it's already going to be taught, I don't know why you should pay money and get this. You learn this. I have answered your question, Arun. Okay. Okay. Right. The next Java, you can just check the edureka website. They basically keep announcing the batches. Right now, one batch is going on, which I'm taking. It started from the 9th of November. So that started. The next one, I think it's probably going to start from December. You can just go to the edureka site and search and see their class schedules. Okay. And the duration of the course, as I said, it's 42 hours. So I don't know how edureka usually schedules. So you can just check the class schedule. Okay. And okay, any more questions? Well, Laksha, if you want to do big data jobs, they expect some kind of experience. Directly, you may not get a fresher job in big data analytics because they expect some experience or maybe some knowledge of big data analytics. So I suggest that you do some course and learn about it, experiment it yourself, and don't always blindly depend on a course, because I myself have never done any course in my life. I'm curious, I learn it myself, and I experiment with things and I go deep into it. And that's how I learn. So I suggest that you also start doing the same way, and you can do that. Well, Satyajit is asking some free stuff to learn Java. Well, you can go to the Oracle site. Okay, they have fantastic Java tutorials. So if you are disciplined enough to go through the tutorial every day, I think within 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, you will be confident in Java. Okay. So okay. So any more questions you have for me? Okay, folks. So any more questions? I think we are already out of time. Sorry, we already on time now. So tell me any more questions you have, because I found a lot of career related questions, and I'm very happy you asked this, because I want you to make the right choice, so that you don't land up with the wrong course and then you pay from your pocket and realize, oh no, gosh, this is not the course for me. So I hope I've answered all your questions and you found this session very useful. And I hope it was a good use of your time, right? I mean, 1 hour you sat with me on a Diwali night, and I'm glad you spared some time, So I'm happy, if most of you find your dreams, if most of you, become excellent Java developers. So that's my Diwali wish for all of you. So did you all enjoy this session? Well, there's a question from Neha that she wants to learn big data, because and she's learning Selenium now. If you see big data, Neha, let me tell you, big data, it's kind of a very abstract concept. because in big data there are lots of things, lots of things. There's something called data processing, there's something called data cleaning, then there's a data analysis, and post data analysis there's something called reporting, and there's a lot of infrastructure work. So that's big data. If you just say big data, it's just like saying mathematics. In mathematics, there are a lot of things in mathematics. There is calculus, there's discrete maths, indiscrete maths, vector maths, then stochastic maths, modern mathematics. So basically, it's just like mathematics. You have to be very precise, and you have to find out where your interest is, because big data is pretty large. It will take you several years to master everything. So what you have to do is you have to, since you're already into testing with Selenium, maybe a good starting point for you will be kind of data collection and data crunching and data conversion. So if you can start with this, I think that's a good entry point to big data. Otherwise, you'll be just lost in the sea. Okay, you can see how you can collect data, how you can convert to formats using various languages like Python, or maybe some scripting language like Perl, and how you can feed that into big data systems like Flume. So these kind of things, you can start off with, and gradually you can just go deeper and deeper. Okay. Great. We have a question from Venkat, who's asking that will there be any coverage on course coverage with ED integration? Venkat, I did not understand what ED is. Can you quickly tell me what ED means? I'm sorry, I don't know what ED means. Okay, you mean EA. I'm sorry again. What does EA mean? I mean, you have to write it. Okay. Look, I'm telling you, Neha, whether you are from ITIL background or it really doesn't matter. The most interesting, important thing is that whether you have interest and curiosity or not. Let me tell you, I'm not from an engineering background. Okay, I'm not an engineer. So how does it matter? I'm not a computer science engineer. But for last 18 years, I told you what I've done in software. So it's all about your curiosity and your self-confidence. Don't think that just because you don't have some silly degree, somebody's going to stop you. No one can stop you other than yourself. Remember this, Neha. Okay, so good luck, and just go ahead. Okay, well, and one more question you have is that after doing this course or advanced Java, I'll be able to become a part of some open source project. I'm aware that there are such projects existing. uh, Yeah, exactly. I think the best way to learn, if you can associate yourself with some open source project, become a contributor, and just see what's happening there. I think that's a great way to learn. And if you're doing that, Venkat, I strongly encourage you to do it. Even if you have to wake up at night and do that, because that's a great rewarding experience. Okay. So yeah, Neha, starting with Selenium is good. Selenium is a fantastic language. I mean, a fantastic framework. So I suggest, you start with Selenium, and you get a hang of it, because see, the thing is that, it will just broaden your perspective on software development. So what you're doing, you do that and gradually move to what I suggested. Okay. Okay. Enterprise architecture, Venkat, right. No, enterprise architecture, I don't think there is any webinar scheduled, but maybe after this session you can give a feedback about this, so maybe edureka can look into it. Okay. See, the thing is that, if you want to work on open source projects, go to the Apache site, Velen, or go to, there are a lot of SourceForge projects. Just go through the projects and see which one excites you, because I really don't know, what is your level of interest in what areas. So, or maybe you can look up open source projects in MIS or ETL field and see which one, interests you, because unless you have interest, you really cannot do that. Okay. Okay. See, enterprise architecture, we cover enterprise architecture, Venkat, as a part of the SOA. But the thing is that I think I understand what you're asking. From the SOA part, we cover only a part of it, but SOA is again a part of it. There are other things also which you should know in enterprise architecture, which this course doesn't cover. It just covers the enterprise architecture from the service-oriented architecture point of view. Okay, and it also tells you how Java enterprise architecture is. So I think probably that will maybe cover 60-70% of your enterprise architecture stuff. Okay. Yes, Arun, the course for the day is over. If you want, you can sign out. Okay. Internships, Satyajit, if you want to be a Java intern, you have to just look out the job websites or company websites, and just see, if they're taking interns or project trainees. I think that's also a good way to learn. You have to just, keep searching. Okay, good. So I think, thank you very much all for your time. It's already pretty late in the night here. And what I will do is I'll sign out, and I hope you enjoyed your time. It was a good investment of your time. And happy Diwali to all of you. May all your dreams come true, and may you all become, very good developers in whatever your interest areas are. Okay then. Right. Good night to all of you. Bye.